So you just found out about Ravenswatch, or perhaps you've been following the game since it was first revealed. Either way, we've got you covered. My name is Codiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and today we're sharing our ultimate beginner's guide for Pastech Games' new indie roguelite, Ravenswatch. So let's start at the very beginning. Ravenswatch is a brand new indie roguelite action game. You play as twisted folk characters turned hero as you fight back an evil corruption that threatens to take over the world. Ravenswatch is an early access game, which means things are going to change over the course of the weeks and months after this video goes live. If you want our unfiltered thoughts on the game, I definitely recommend you go check out our worth your time early access review recently released on the channel. Now, at the very heart of Ravenswatch are the heroes, so I think it's only fitting we start there. Currently, there are 6 heroes available. They are Scarlet, the Pied Piper, Beowulf, the Snow Queen, Aladdin, and Melusine. Scarlet is a melee character most closely associated with a rogue. Her attacks are quick and powerful, but there's a twist to her character. When the sun goes down, she transforms into a werewolf, and her moveset becomes more powerful, but she does lose a little speed in the process. The Pied Piper is a really unique take on a ranged caster. His primary attack allows you to send out a constant stream of musical notes, but he can also send out hordes of rats to deal damage to enemies by tapping into his unique trait. Beowulf is a more traditional warrior, but because of his worm companion, he can infuse any of his abilities with fire, dealing increased damage and igniting enemies for some additional damage over time. The Snow Queen is a ranged caster you might call a mage. The goal with her is to chill as many enemies as possible using her supporting abilities, then unleashing Shatter and exploding all those chilled enemies for a massive amount of damage. You also have Aladdin, a quick and nimble melee character that wields enchanted blades and can call on the power of the Jinn to grant him 3 wishes. These wishes coalesce as 3 powerful abilities that can either damage enemies in an AoE, reward upgrades, or massively heal you and your team. Finally, you have Melusine, another ranged caster that sends out a wisp that deals constant damage to any enemies that come into contact with it. While the wisp is active, Melusine can't move, but she has an incredible escape mechanic that helps her avoid any tricky situation. Each character is unique in their own right, and they each bring a different moveset to battle, but there is a common thread that connects each kit, and it's really important to understand this because it ties directly to the progression system within the game. Each hero has a trait, something that ties closely to the identity of the character. For example, in the case of the Snow Queen, it allows her to move faster, leaving a trail of ice in her wake. In the case of Beowulf, his trait allows him to call on his worm companion, empowering his next ability with fire. Then you have basic attacks, nothing fancy here, the bread and butter of every hero. Next is your power. On most heroes, this will be the ability that deals the most damage throughout a round. In the case of Melusine, it allows you to send out a pulsating blast of water. For Scarlet, it allows you to dash through enemies, dealing massive damage. Next are the special abilities. These are often right there in terms of damage potential, but usually function a bit differently. Aladdin's special allows him to send out 2 spinning blades that deal damage and build up his own unique enchantment buff. The Pied Piper special allows him to place down a vulnerable zone, weakening all enemies caught inside. Then there are defensive abilities, which are either about protecting the hero or giving them increased mobility. For Melusine, it allows her to avoid all incoming damage for a short period of time. For Beowulf, it allows him to block all incoming damage so long as his shield is pointed in the right direction. Finally, each hero has an ultimate, and as you'd imagine, these are the most powerful abilities in a hero's arsenal. From the Pied Piper's auto-targeting barrage of musical notes, to Melusine's exploding orb of water, to the Snow Queen's beam of deadly ice, each brings an explosive ultimate to the table. I should note that heroes like Scarlet, the Pied Piper, and the Snow Queen all have movesets that have slight changes based on whether it's day or night, which is constantly in flux throughout the course of the action. In the case of Scarlet, her entire moveset changes as she transforms between Sneaky Rogue and Deadly Werewolf, whereas a character like the Snow Queen only has slight variations to individual abilities. Now, it's important to understand how the game categorizes each of these abilities because throughout combat, you'll be faced with a number of upgrade choices that will enhance these skills. By defeating enemies and completing points of interest, heroes will gain experience. Each time a hero levels up, they'll gain access to 2 upgrade choices. As a player, you'll need to make the decision which upgrade to pursue. At the moment, there is a maximum hero level of 5, which means you only have a few decisions to make each round. At level 5, you'll unlock your ultimate ability, and at this point in early access, you won't gain any additional levels. Simply by playing the game, you'll progress your hero as part of the perma-progression system. At the end of each round, the hero that you played will gain some experience. Each time they level up, you'll unlock new upgrades and items that can be found in future rounds. Now, this can be a bit confusing to new players at first, but it's simple. By unlocking new upgrades, it makes each subsequent round a bit easier, primarily because there's a better pool of resources to pull from. It's the fundamental difference between a roguelike, where you start from scratch every single round, and a roguelite, where there are permanent upgrade systems that overall make the experience a bit easier with each new start. As far as items go, well, there are a few things you need to know. Items come in different rarities, and as you might expect, their rarity indicates how potent that item is. Common items provide relatively small passive bonuses, rare items provide more substantial passive bonuses, epic items are more powerful and often give you additional charges of abilities or reduced cooldown times, legendary items provide the most significant passive bonuses, and cursed items have strong positive benefits but also a negative effect that players need to consider. Items can be found at various points of interest, which we'll dive into shortly, but a small subset of items can also be purchased using dream shards, the currency of the game. At the spawn point of each map is the Sandman, the dream dealer. There, you can spend dream shards that you collect throughout a round and purchase one-time consumable items. These are pretty straightforward and offer some basic bonuses to your hero. You can also purchase ability upgrades from the Sandman. These take into account all of the skill upgrades that you've chosen to unlock along the way and allows you to upgrade their quality, thus enhancing their potency. Upgrades have the same rarity structure as items, ranging from common to legendary. At this point, there are no cursed abilities in the game. With a solid understanding of heroes, character progression, items, and upgrades, I think it's time to get into a round and talk about what players can expect and how to navigate the looming corruption. When you teleport into a round either solo or in a group of up to 4 players, you have a decision to make. Which points of interest do you choose to tackle first? Each rewards you something different, and because you're on the clock, you need to work fast. With that in mind, let's break down what each of these POIs are. Master Nightmare is the final boss location. If you come here early, you can trigger that encounter regardless of the timer. Healing fountains are small shrines that restore any missing health and increase a hero's maximum health. Teleporters are found around the map and can quickly port you and your allies to any other teleporter. Treasure chests are guarded by a small host of enemies and contain a small set of items, one of which you can choose to keep, gaining its associated bonus. When you trigger a grimoire, you start an arena encounter. The goal is to kill all enemies before the timer runs out. If you do that, you're rewarded with an item of your choosing. Each map also has at least one side quest. If you manage to complete the quest without failing the event, you'll be rewarded with a legendary item of your choice. You can also stumble across a wishing well. Here you can spend dream shards for a random item. For each item you purchase, the dream shard cost goes up. If efficiency is your thing, then you'll want to check out the Vision Tower. Once activated, the tower reveals some of the various points of interest around the map. This is useful when planning out your run and cuts down on the overall time it takes to find important things around the map. There are also large dream crystals that you can smash, collecting a healthy amount of dream shards in the process, which you can then use to purchase upgrades at the dream dealer. These are often guarded by a large group of enemies. If you're lucky or efficient enough to find a cursed key, then you can activate an optional boss. If you manage to defeat the boss in the time that you're given, you'll be rewarded with a cursed item. You'll also need a cursed key if you want to access a dungeon. Inside, you'll face a small group of enemies and a mini-boss. If you clear out the dungeon, you'll get to choose one reward between a set of 2 legendary and 2 cursed items. Finally are the Nightmare Tumors. These are challenging arenas where you'll face a number of nightmare enemies. If you manage to defeat them all, you'll knock off 20% of the final boss's total health pool. As you can see, there is no shortage of things to do, and it's really up to you to determine what order you tackle everything in. Things do get a bit more complicated as you consider the game's various difficulties, which do add a different dynamic to the action. In the standard difficulty, normal, nothing changes. In Nightmare 1, tainted enemies appear. These are slightly stronger variations of their non-nightmare form. In Nightmare 2, players will have one less Raven Feather to use. Feathers can be used to instantly revive a hero. Keep in mind, feathers are shared across your entire team, so you have to be smart about when to use feathers and when to revive your teammates. In Nightmare 3, Master Nightmares are stronger. These are elite enemies that become even more durable and deadly. In Nightmare 4, healing orbs heal for less, that's pretty straightforward. And finally, in Nightmare 5, you'll find less rare upgrades. That means when you complete a POI, the quality of that upgrade is most likely going to be common. We did find that while the difficulty matters, it's not the substantial jump in hardness we've come to expect from other games of the genre. That being said, there are some challenging enemies and nuances about them I think you need to understand. As you can probably figure out, the top bar above an enemy is its health pool. That is a no-brainer. However, the white bar below that is a little harder to figure out. This is actually an enemy's stagger bar. This has saved our skin on more than one occasion. Once the stagger bar is filled, an enemy becomes stunned, and if they have any sort of active defense, it's stripped away. You'll know if an enemy has an active defense by the shield icon to the side of their health bar. These enemies take reduced damage until they're staggered, then they take the same amount of damage as a normal enemy. You can further weaken enemies by using abilities that apply vulnerable. This increases the damage they take so long as the debuff stays active. It's really going to be on you to learn the ins and outs of each enemy. Breaking that down here would take another 15 minutes, but the long and short of it is this. Each enemy brings 1 or 2 unique maneuvers to the fight. The key is identifying the most important targets and killing them quickly. Oftentimes, it's the healer. It'll take some time, especially as you're learning each hero's moveset, but with a little practice, the enemies will fall by the hundreds. That was a lot, but keep in mind Ravenswatch is just launching into early access. The developers are no strangers to releasing a roadmap of additional content, and I have no doubt 6 months from now the game will look different with new heroes, maps, bosses, and things to do. Friends, we hope you found this Ultimate Beginner's Guide helpful. If you're excited to check out Ravenswatch, let us know in the comments section. We think the game has incredible potential and can't wait to follow its development. As always, if you do enjoy videos like this and want more reviews, guides, and other videos in your feed, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up, and consider subscribing. I also want to invite you to join the Legacy Gaming community on Discord. We just revamped our entire server, so if you're looking for a place to hang out, talk about great games, win free prizes, and group up with friends, check out the link in the description below. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.